We are now having the third and last presentation of this AI crowd competition. We have Michael or Michael. How should we, Michael, yes. So, and he has finished first of the competition. He's working for Desjardins in Quebec, Canada, and he has 15 years of experience in property and casualty insurance, and he's working now in the R&D team, and he's passionate about merging actual and machine learning science. So the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's kind of weird to say good morning as here it's kind of late, so I'm having a different kind of coffee right now. I've been part of this AI crowd competition. Just a little background on myself. So I'm from Quebec, Canada, and I could say I was a typical actuary. Working in home and auto insurance, working with GLMs, with regular software provided for actuaries, and kind of touching with what David, the previous presentators, mentioned. So I was working within a research and development team. All my colleagues are young data scientists. I'm quite of the only few actuaries in that team, but all my colleagues were very skillful in Python and R. So I was afraid I was losing traction on this development and skills development. So I've been watching them doing plenty of interesting stuff. So when I saw this competition, I thought, well, this is my motivation at starting a journey in machine learning and learning R, because I had zero skills in all Python, R, and machine learning. So a brief overview of the competition. I know previous presenter talked about it. I saw the number of participants increase, so I will just touch base. So the goal of the competition was to be, you're an insurance company, you're building a pricing model, and you compete against other insurers for profit. And basically, the organizers ran simulation where they would run your pricing model on policy quotes, and basically the bigger the profit, the insurer with the most profit would win. The data we were provided, basic stuff from the auto insurance world. Maybe I just want to comment that we had about 60,000 policies looking over 4 years. So we had 4 different rows per policies. This is what's coming from an European insurer. And perhaps I want to mention that we were provided the claim amount as the response variable. I'll touch base with that later. And perhaps other stuff I want to mention is about the vehicle variable, the make and model. We were not provided any insightful data on that. It was basically a hash that about 900 different hash. So you could not make anything out of that variable. We'll touch that, and we'll touch about that later. But besides that, regular policy, driver, vehicle, and geography variable. So starting my journey into machine learning, I know feature engineering is one of the most important thing to do. So basically, you just start with what data you have, and you create more variable. So a quite obvious variable to create would be the population density, because you were provided the population and surface area of the city of the insured. Basically, so you do one over the other, you get a new variable. But other more improved transformation, such as the vehicle value, we were provided the vehicle value, which was like the value for a brand new vehicle. It did not account for the depreciation of the value. So on my own, I decided on a depreciation curve, but to be fancy, I added a reversal here where very old vehicle would go back would increase in value to because collectible vehicle do increase in value after a certain period of time. My approach at creating variable was really looking at the 4 big categories and thinking about each variable and how it could influence the risk. Let's say, so I just thought about everything. So let's say an inexperienced driver with a faster vehicle can be more risky. So to create that interaction, you would multiply both values together and have then a new variable that would quantify this risk. So I really created plenty of combination, as much as I could thought of. But another approach would be just to simply, like a brute force approach, would be to just create all the various combination possible. So all the ratios or the addition or subtraction. It could be another approach, which I did not take. I went with just assumptions. Other features I did, I would be looking at you versus the world. So I would say I would look at, well, if I can explain this graph here, all are the insured here with the driver age. And here is the vehicle value for that. Well, all the little circle are the average vehicle value per driver age. And that would create a new feature based on how much one specific insured is far from the average of his own age group. So my thought behind this would reflect some specific client behavior. So let's say this one here, someone in his 30s would have perhaps a significantly lower vehicle value than his peers from the same age. So perhaps he's more frugal, different risk in terms of insurance. So I did create a variable based on this distance right here. And then again, I would do the same approach. Let's say for not the vehicle value, but the vehicle age. Are you driving a significantly older vehicle than your peers from the same age, and so on. So I did this for plenty of variable based on driver age. I also looked into your own history as an insured client, because as I mentioned, we had 4 years of data for each insured client. So have you switched vehicle, moved to a new city, and so on. And most importantly, have you claimed in the past, and how much money have the insurer been giving to you? Because perhaps if you work in the auto insurance business, prior claims is one of the most important features in insurance model. And then once I went through all my feature engineering process, I thought, well, how can I do more? So I thought about getting some edge over my fellow competitors. So I thought about, okay, so as I mentioned, the vehicle make and model, as I mentioned, we were provided an encrypted value. but maybe I can try to decrypt that value. So I thought maybe if I get my hands on an external database where we would be provided the manufacturer's speed, the vehicle speed and the vehicle weight, which we were provided those two variables. Maybe I could reverse it based on speed and weight to actually decrypt the hash and have the actual make and model, and perhaps to validate my reverse engineering, I could cross-check the reasonableness by comparing the popularity of the vehicle, because we had over 900 independent values, but some of the values would repeat very often, as some vehicles are very popular in Europe. So if I had a complete match, I would get more specs about the vehicle. So perhaps I could get an edge and win. Eventually, at the end, I really spent a lot of time on this, but I did not go through this option for two reasons. The database I found, which is located here, it still costs $100 USD, so I didn't feel like spending that much money. And also, I wasn't sure about the legality of this operation. While it was not forbidden, I thought it was maybe not ethical to do that. As far as some of the categorical variable, I did some one-hot encoding. One example is the policy coverage. It was a variable with 4 levels: the minimum, medium, and maximum. So we could replace that text variable with binary values, 0 and 1, as others have presented before. And also, we could do some target encoding. So instead of replacing with 0 and 1s, you could replace with a numerical value that brought some more insight. Correlated with the risk. Here I did in my model use replace like the minimum 1, 2, 3, and 4, which were kind of representing, were correlated with the response variable. So whenever you do some target encoding, I just want to mention that to beware of leakage. Leakage is the term where your model will deteriorate on your test set. So I did experience leakage. As I progressed in the competition, my score was deteriorating, and this is called leakage. I know that some of the leakage came from the vehicle make model. I did some aggressive mean target encoding. Even though I used smoothing, I still had leakage. So my model was learning from the response, which is not good because it will not perform well on your test set. And just for this for this variable, the only thing I did that was worthwhile was I kept a popularity index, where so it was just an integer, a numerical score from 1 to 78. As like the rationale behind a popular vehicle, I believe would be cheaper to repair because a popular vehicle would maybe have perhaps more parts available and vice versa. So one interesting thing to do to work around target encoding. So modeling. So once your features are done and you're satisfied, you start to do modeling. As I mentioned, it was my first time working with machine learning, so I just went all in. I tried it was the time to learn. So I tried XGBoost, CatBoost, LightGBM, Random Forest, and GLM-Net. And also I did try both frequency severity approach and a direct loss cost using a 3D function. And on top of that, I did work on stacking also to improve the claim prediction. So stacking would be you have your base model, and then on top of that, you have model learning from your base model. So as a stacking model, I had 4 of them, and my ultimate prediction would come from the average of the 4 meta model. So I did work a lot, as you can see, 18 base model, 4 meta model, ultimately 22 base models tuned. But it was fun. I was learning. And then I worked on market simulation because I was having so many models on hand. Like I was wondering, okay, is one model working better than the others? So I used 11 different models, which I trained 8 different times with new seeds every time. So basically, I had 8 different train test sets. And as you can see here, here are my 11 different model. F, X, S are frequency time severity model. And here loss cost. Here at the beginning, random forest, XGBoost, LightGBM, GLM, CatBoost. Sure. So how to read this chart here? I would basically recreate the competition, but internally. So I would use my 11 models and compete against each other. So if I look, let's say we take this, let's say here, the second column, we take this one. So it's the seed 42. So it's just the random seed that I use. So on seed 42, my random forest frequency time severity model would have the best profit, would have the profit ranking at #1, and so on. So you see 1, 2, 7, 9. So I did then, as you can see, I can calculate the average for every different seed. And you can see that, well, on average, I can see that this model did have a higher profit. Well, it's not always the case. As you can see, sometimes it did not achieve the best profit. And you can see here the average and how volatile the values, the ranking was. Perhaps maybe I want to mention that frequency time severity was performing better than loss cost approach directly. And I went a step above and tried to understand also, because we're used to qualify our models based on a metric, a loss metric. So let's say looking at the RMSE metric, which I was frequently using to evaluate how my model was performing, I wanted to see, okay, how RMSE and profit would be correlated. So again, here you can see that while my random forest was achieving the best profit on average, it wasn't the model with the best RMSE. Actually, far from the best here. So really, it was like trying to. I still don't have the answer here, but it was just trying to understand how everything worked together and how I could achieve the best profit just from looking at RMSE scores. And from this, I still don't have the answer on how the RMSE could help me improve my profit. Talking about profit, well, I can say that time wasted. The competition was over 10 weeks, about 10 or 11 weeks. And I spent the first 10 weeks working on features, model, simulation, because also I was learning. It was brand new to me. And I did like spend only 2 minutes on profit loading. Really, I was just, okay, let's add 10% and submit. So at the end of the competition, I had no idea how to adequately load my price. And the feedback that was provided through the competition wasn't really helping me. So I had to improvise. As you can see here was my progress throughout the competition. I started on week 2 where I had basically no profit loading. As you can see, I was earning a 44% market share, which was disastrous because I was losing a ton of money. And then on week 3, I said, okay, let's add more profit loading. And then I simply overcharged. I was charging way too much. And so then at this step, this is where I just gave up on trying to find a profit. I just worked on improving my models as a claim cost model instead, and not working on the profit loading. Okay, so we're on the last week of the competition. What do I choose to load my prices with? So I thought, let's reuse what I've built for my market simulation. So I created a market of 10 insurers, because I did not mention, but the competition was set as the organizers would create multiple simulation of 10 competitors, 10 insurers, and match them together and see the ranking and the profit. So on my own, I created 10 competition simulation of 10 insurers, and I asked myself, what's the minimum loading required so that all 10 insurers are profitable? Based on that result, well, results were highly volatile. Between 25 and 40% loading was required to have all insurers profitable. Then from this data point, which I thought was kind of high as a profit loading, I said, okay, I should aim a little lower than that, because it's unreasonable to expect everyone to have profit. So yeah, I decided to aim a little lower. Ultimately, what I chose was a two-step approach with first a variable loading of 15% or 14.9% times the expected claim, times another loading that was proportional to the odds of having a claim. So I really just flipped a coin and decided on a number that would maybe make sense, and both profit loadings combined together. And here you can see from a test distribution what was my loading distribution. So I had as a minimum loading, I had 15% or so, up to about 60% loading. Oh, and at the end, my end game. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we were provided 4 years of data for about 57,000 claim insured. So the final evaluation, we had to quote 100,000 policies at year 5. of those 100,000 policies, 57 were the insured from our training data, but 43% were brand new clients which we had no knowledge on. So for those 57%, we knew we had the information for their years 1 to 4. So I had in my final model, I actually had 2 models within the zip file that we were providing the competition. So I had one model that would generalize to all the business, but I had a specific model that was data augmented. So it was expecting more information, more insight on their history. So I saved the past claim counts and amount. As this variable is very predictive, I did keep it from the training data to improve that specific model for those specific clients. So my goal was here to cherry pick the clients here and there, expecting other participants to maybe not have this approach and not have this additional information on the client from those 57%. Ultimately, the results, there were about 252 teams with more than 300 participants. Here are the names from my fellow colleagues in Quebec. They all finished in good position. Here I am in 4th place. So this brings me to you guys to present my result. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for providing your views from a different angle, and it was really great. I'm happy that we didn't have much redundancy at all between the 3 presentations, so that's really great.